Good morning. Hi, my name's Dave Knapp. I have the honor of serving as the city manager here in Cupertino, and the honor of knowing some great people. I want to welcome everybody and congratulate us all on this splendid weather. This is a very happy occasion for us. We're here to do a couple of things. First, to celebrate Don's legacy. I came here in 2000, and Don was on the council that hired me, so has exceptional judgment, obviously. But very shortly after hiring me, we hopped on bicycles, and he took me around town to show me some things. And guess where we stopped? This happens to be one of the locations that was on the tour. A little bit about the sign. The sign is in development now. I understand the Friends have already raised $7,000 for the sign, so that's in process. Let me introduce the dignitaries that are here. Our most notable dignitary that is here, of course, is Nancy Burnett. Nancy? And Nancy is joined by several members of her family. Ken is here, Ken Burnett. Her daughter Jill Staton and her husband Troy. Also their daughters Holly and Elena. And of course we have Senator Joe Simitian, who is responsible for allowing all this to happen for us. We have former Mayor and Water District Director Patrick Kwok. And we have our current Mayor, Gilbert Wong, and our current Vice Mayor, Mark Santoro. Also, I need to point out Dick and Sharon Blaine are here. Dick especially was instrumental in making this happen. There are resolutions available. You're going to hear from Senator Simitian in a moment about this resolution, but there are also resolutions from Mike Honda and Paul Fong. And without further ado, I would like to introduce our Senator, Joe Simitian.
Well, that went the wrong way. There we go. Thank you very much. It's redundant, but it's a beautiful day in Cupertino, so let's enjoy that. And I have to tell you, as I look out at all of the cyclists, yes, you have made me feel guilty for driving to this morning's ceremony, so it's an inspiration to get me out of the car and back on the bicycle. I'm really pleased to be here. Don is someone I got to know while he was on the council and while I was on the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors probably 15 years ago. We had occasion to work together from time to time, but more than that, I had occasion to observe firsthand the person that he was and the way he went about living his life on a daily basis, as well as performing his public service. And the people who are here this morning, I think, know as well as anyone can, he was quiet, gracious, but absolutely principled and absolutely determined. And anyone who mistook that quiet, gracious fellow with the wonderful smile that's on the back of the program today for anything other than the person of steely resolve he was when it came to a vision, I think made a big mistake. Don had already, I think going back to the late 80s, had already envisioned this place and this bridge. And like a lot of folks who are ahead of their times, I think he was sometimes a little frustrated that other people weren't quite as quick to get to the vision as he was. But as you heard from Dave, he was always persistent. He was always focused on that long-term vision. And I think one of the things that most impressed me about Don was that he was a person who actually lived out the values that he articulated in his daily life. And a lot of folks are good when it comes to talking the talk, but not so good when it comes to walking the walk, or in this case, riding the ride. And Don, as you know, for a decade and a half or more, got on that bike every morning to go to work, was ahead of his time in understanding that cycling really is a form of transportation that's viable for the community, ahead of his time on safety issues, as his daughter and I were talking about, and ahead of his time in envisioning this bridge. He was an inspiration for the bridge, but he was also someone who, by his nature, understood that good things happen only with cooperation and collaboration, and so he was always pulling other people into the conversation, always making them a part of this effort, and the bridge that we see behind us is a result of that approach, both to the way he lived his life and the kind of public service that he provided. I want to say thank you, and the reason I want to say thank you is because earlier this year when local folks, Dick in particular, said, you know, we really ought to take this opportunity to memorialize Don's work through the renaming of the bridge. I work in the state capitol in Sacramento, and boy, was it nice to have something to articulate in advance that didn't cause controversy and push and shove. It was a little unusual, because most of the time, if there's a naming, it's for a freeway. So to be able to say, actually, no, we're not going to name a freeway, we're going to name a bicycle and pedestrian bridge for someone who was a visionary in his own quiet way, was really a very gratifying opportunity for me. So to Don, who can't be here, to his family, who is, to the members of the public, thank you for giving me that opportunity. Senate Concurrent Resolution 35 is the vehicle by which the bridge has been renamed in Don's honor. I want to assure you, it passed unanimously, Nancy, so we're in good stead. And I just want to say thank you again. This really is a remarkable moment when there is a physical manifestation of someone's vision over a more than 20-year process. So in that way, let me say thank you once again. The resolution is here for those of you who want to come up and take a moment to read it. It's also in your program. Nancy, we're going to send it home with you, if that's okay, as a way to remember the day. And my thanks to you, but mostly my thanks to Don for his vision, his leadership, and the bridge that stands behind us. Thank you so much for including me today.
Thank you, Senator Simitian. I noticed Michael Chang, a former mayor, also on the council with Don, has joined us today. Nice to see you, Michael. And our next speaker is Patrick Kwok.
Thank you, Dave. Good morning. My name is Patrick Kwok. I am a District 5 representative from the Santa Clara Valley Water District, representing the great city of Cupertino, Sunnyvale, Saratoga, and a little bit of Santa Clara. I'm really delighted to be here this morning to talk about Don on behalf of my fellow board members to honor a great man, a colleague, and a friend. I had the pleasure to know Don for many years. In fact, I was one of the 2 council members who replaced Don in 2001, and it had a very big shoe to fill. He has given me a very strong foundation and to fulfill the responsibilities I would face, and we share the same challenges, visions, and successes. I recall when I was applying for appointment for the Planning Commission in 1995, when Don was on the City Council. I met him at the Valco Fashion Mall at that time, and I was running late, and because I couldn't find any parking. So I saw Don and I said, sorry, I'm late, I couldn't find any parking. Do you have any problem finding parking? He looked at me and he said, I bike here. You know, you should do more walking. And I said, here goes my chance to get appointed. But he looked at me and he said, don't worry. So Don walked the talk, you know, and he really great in terms of bicycling to work and to any places that he could rather than take transportation, and really concerned about clean air and environment. My work with Don continued when I left the city of Cupertino, and Don was a very strong advocate of the environment, water issues, and for the creek stewardship over the Santa Clara Valley Water District. He served as vice chair for the Independent Monitoring Committee, which is part of Measure B, Crimson Creek, approved by voters in 2000, and it goes until for 15 years. And he was a wonderful supporter of district's commitment to ensuring clean, safe water in the county's creek and waterways. And many great things have been accomplished, and by Green Safe Creek natural flood protection, and because of Don's leadership and consistency advocating trails, bike paths, and healthy lifestyle choices that contributing to reducing air pollution and improving the quality of life. Don was also a tireless advocate of pedestrian-friendly communities as well. Why? I served on City Council in 2001 along with Michael Chan, Dolly Sandoval, Richard Lowenthal, and Sandra James that awarded a contract for the construction of this bridge. But Don, when he served on the City Council and Mayor, actually planted the seed for this great work, and we really appreciate the work Don has done. And the resolution by Senator Resolution 35 really spoke highly of Don in terms of his accomplishment and his passion. And I think, in fact, the Water District also passed a similar resolution commending Don for his dedications in the environment and for serving 10 years at the Independent Monitoring Committee. In closing, I would personally want to thank Senator Joe Simitian for his resolution to make it happen. And I will always want to thank the citizens and Don's family to invite me to be here this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick. And now some words from our current mayor, Gilbert Wong.
Good morning. How's everyone doing? This is really a tribute to Don Burnett and the friends of Don Burnett to be here. I was just very fortunate to get elected onto the council to open this wonderful bridge, but it's really all the hard work from the previous council that brought us together. We see a lot of the bicycle folks here, and what I noticed, all the bicycles here on the edge, and I think that what we need to do as a city council is try to get some bicycle racks up here to complement this bicycle-pedestrian bridge on both sides, because the whole bridge sits in the city of Cupertino. But the short time that I do get to know Mr. Burnett, former Mayor Burnett, I too, like former Mayor Patrick Kwok, did ask for advice from Don Burnett, and he did a lot of things other than the pedestrian and bicycle community. And one of the tributes that he did was the Eichler houses in the Fairgrove neighborhood together with Nancy. And we had a talk regarding the R1 ordinance, and he wanted to get to know more about my ideas and gave me a really good advice for me to propel myself onto the Planning Commission and onto the City Council. But this is really a day to honor the community of all his hard work on the bicycle friendly in our city, to make sure that it's friendly. We wanted to make sure that the Stevens Creek Canyon Road area going up to the hills was more safer. He really advocated to widen the road and was really hard on our city staff here to make sure that all of our roads, maybe down in the flatlands or up in the hills, are safe for Cupertinians. And the list can go on. But I'm sure you don't want to hear politicians speak all day long, and we have a whole list of things, but it's just really nice to have a tribute for Mr. Don Burnett. And luckily the birds are still here. They haven't been taken away again. But what I think that the city needs to do is find another opportunity to have a pedestrian bridge, maybe by the Apple campus, to maybe in honor of Mr. Steve Jobs, since a lot of people are clamoring for a tribute for Mr. Jobs. But I want to say again, thank you to Nancy, thank you to the Blaneys and the friends of Don Burnett for asking Mr. Senator Joe Simitian for naming the bridge, as it is a state property, in partnership of working with the state and the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Wong. Another tenacious advocate who worked tirelessly with Don will speak next, and that's Ann Ing.
Excuse me, I'm going to read. That's me, a cyclist and a friend of Don. And I was a neighbor, too, in the Eichler neighborhood on the other side of Cupertino. By the way, we live in Cupertino, the Burnetts and us and the rest of us, because of a campaign Don and Nancy helped lead to de-annex our neighborhood from San Jose to Cupertino just before we moved here in 1979. Now I realize I'm not Don's only friend. Raise your hand if you are a friend of Don. Yep, we have lots of company. Many of us here today are cyclists. I met Don in the early 90s, not as a neighbor, but as a bicycle advocate. As I understand it, when he retired from his many years bicycle commuting to Lockheed, he resolved to get involved in bicycle advocacy and as well as recreational cycling. He appeared at a Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition meeting and soon joined us on the board. I helped him form the Cupertino Bicycle Advisory Committee, which soon added his cycling friends Dick Blaine and Joe Walton. And he also joined Western Wheelers. After riding and sometimes leading challenging sea rides for some years, he began also leading A-rides aimed at introducing beginners to the joys of cycling. That was Don. Share the joy. As I said, Don got the Bicycle Advisory Committee started, but he was on the city council by the time the council approved the committee's first project, the very first bicycle transportation plan in this county for a city in 1998. It included the proposal for this bridge, one of his dreams. And he was on the council to approve the Mary Avenue Bicycle-Footbridge feasibility study in 2001. That's what made the bridge eligible for funding when VTA money became available. And here it is, thanks to Don and Joe Walton, who's out there, who helped lead the feasibility study, and Ralph Qualls, who supervised its construction through some trying times, and many, many others. Now it has most appropriately been renamed the Don Burnett Bicycle-Pedestrian Bridge, and I'd like to give credit to Don's very dear longtime cycling buddy, Dick Blaine, who spearheaded the effort. And he led the fundraising effort to help pay for the signs. Thanks also to the De Anza Optimists, to which Don belonged, and their treasurer, Stieg Klein, for setting up a separate account to handle the funds. Finally, thanks very much to the more than 50 people and a couple organizations who have donated almost $7,000 to cover the cost, or most of the cost. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Now I would like to hear from the family. Nancy, would you like to say a few words?
Well, you've just heard from Ann about Don's love of bicycling and his continuing involvement in the many bicycle organizations. I would like to share with you a bit of the history of this bridge. The bridge was built in 2009 with the tenacious help of Ralph Qualls, Cupertino's Director of Public Works at the time, who carried this project from beginning to end through multiple contacts with other jurisdictions. It included state funding, county funding, Sunnyvale funding, Cupertino funding. There were redesigns to save money, and the final result is the bridge we see here, supervised by Terry Green, Cupertino's architect. Avid bicyclists wanted the bridge to be named after Don, who had originated the idea to have it constructed. However, when he was alive, he cared only that the bridge was built. Personal recognition was not a part of Don. Don loved the bridge and rode over it most days of the week. It was a part of his continuing 5,000-mile annual transportation by bicycle. Many of his trips included close bicycling companion Dick Blaine. The existence of this marvelous bridge was just what he wanted. He didn't realize it would become a usable, award-winning landmark for Cupertino. After Don's death last year, interest for renaming arose again. Much credit must go to Lelaine Hines of Los Altos. She is not a bicycle rider. However, Lee admired the beauty of the bridge over the freeway. And when contacted me about a memorial renaming of the bridge, I put her in touch with Dick Blaine, who had been quietly working on this for several years. Many people have been wishing for a renaming. It was a fine idea, and I felt that Don's descendants would care. Then Dick Blaine said, I care. Many people have been, at the time, it was not quite clear who owned the bridge. And with so many jurisdictions involved in its construction, most of the promoters of the renaming became discouraged. However, with her former background as an attorney, Lee pursued the ownership aspect with vigor, and with the help of many others, she learned that the bridge was actually owned by Caltrans. Renaming could only be accomplished by a state legislative resolution. Brock Winstead was contacted by Dick at Simitian's local office. Enter Joan Simitian, whom you've already heard this morning. By resolution, the state legislature renamed the bridge. Our heartfelt thanks go to him for his leadership at the state level. Our next step was to construct and pay for signs. A major concern was how to fund such things during recession times. The state was not prepared to help, and knowing that Cupertino city finances were being stretched also, Cupertino staff members Tim Borden and Rick Kitson told us that the funding would have to come from donations. Dick Blaine took charge, and our fundraising effort was underway. Under Dick's fine leadership, cooperation by Stiggs Klein of the De Anza Optimist Club, and Ann Ing's willingness to serve as our local treasurer, we were ready to accept donations. In September, the City Council voted to help with a limited amount of matching funds. You know the rest of the story. Ann has told you the results so far, and funds continue to come in. We expect that landscaping along the path will benefit along with the new signs. Once the signs are paid for, if there's anything extra, we'll see some nice-looking plants along here. And our architect, Terry Green, is taking charge of the sign designs. As efforts continue, other contributors to his success must be recognized. Steve Klein of the De Anza Optimists, Dolly Sandoval, Dennis Whitaker, Naomi Bloom, and Patrick Kwok were in a special tier of leaders and organizers. And among other things, Dick Blaine's wife, Sharon, has stepped forward to help with providing refreshments for you today. Thanks also go to Martina Dillon, a professional artist and friend of Don, who has designed the printed programs you see today. If you look around and you see people who don't have programs and you have a spouse who's nearby with an extra, do share. The programs contain photos by Carmen Linau, and I'm not knowing how I should be pronouncing her name, so she's just known as Carmen, of the city, and she did that beautiful picture of the bridge, and Troy Staten, Don's son-in-law. Also credit must go to the local news media, Matt Wilson of the Courier, and Pam Marino of Cupertino Patch. We are indeed fortunate to have such talent in our midst. Also, I'd like to thank Carol Atwood of the city, who has been my personal supporter throughout the many months since Don's death on September 11, 2010. Frequent phone calls along with emails were truly important. She sent me a caring email about this bridge renaming. Finally, we thank all our friends and neighbors. There are a whole lot of neighbors. How many neighbors do we have here today? Look at those hands. I don't think we outnumber the bicyclists, but we're doing pretty well. At this point, I would like you to meet our family. We're a small group, and would you all come up here for just a second? You don't have to stay very long. And Troy, you're included. Okay, this is Troy back here giving me a nice hug. Our granddaughter, Lena, granddaughter Holly Staten, and my son, Ken Burnett, and Jill Burnett Staten. I keep wanting to call you Jill Burnett, but it's Staten. And we're a small group. This is the total size of the group, except for one person in Maryland who really wanted to be here. Her name is Claudia. She's a half-sister of Don. She really wanted to be here, but she today had committed to work with her church on breast cancer funding, appropriate. But anyway, she would have been here otherwise, and she really admired the picture of the bridge. At this point, I'd like to introduce the final speaker, Jill Staten, and she's promised not to ramble on like her mother. And if at some point you'd like to walk or cycle over the bridge, we'd love to have you join us. Thank you.
I'd like to thank all of you for coming out and giving up part of a gorgeous Saturday morning to help us commemorate the renaming of the bridge. I especially want to, I know there have been a lot of thanks, but just bear with me. I do want to thank my dad's best bicycling buddies, Ann Ing and Dick Blaine, for all their work in making this happen. And of course, Senator Simitian, without whom it definitely would not have happened. I'm just glad that my dad lived to see this bridge being built. It really was the culmination of a dream, and I remember at the opening ceremony 2.5 years ago, I guess it was, people kept coming up to congratulate him on it, and every time somebody did that, he would say, I played merely a minor role in this. There were a lot of people who put in a lot of time and a lot of effort to make this thing happen. But still, even though he saw this as a community effort, he really would have been pleased, I know, to have this bridge named for him. This bridge represents two things that were very important to my dad, which are his community and, of course, bicycling. And this represents both. It's a safer, better route for cyclists, but it's also a gorgeous landmark for everybody in the community. So it really is the perfect way to commemorate him. Now, I've always thought, I have to admit, I've always thought of this as my dad's bridge anyway, but now it's official. And I know he would have been very pleased, and we, the family, are very pleased as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That's the program today. Take a trip across the bridge, and there's some refreshments for you. Thank you very, very much for coming.